India is renowned as a homeland of saints and seers throughout history. It has long been accepted that being in the presence of a great spiritual teacher can have a profound effect on one's own spiritual development. Today, as never before, vast numbers of people from India and around the world are traveling to the small village of Puttaparthi in southern India to learn about the value of spiritual life. They come by the thousands to see and hear Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. From his humble beginnings as a poor village boy, he set aside his school books at the early age of 14 and began giving spiritual guidance to all who came. Quickly, his fame spread as people heard of his amazing powers to heal the sick, materialize objects, and to know even the most intimate details of a life. Today, as in his youth, Sai Baba teaches through public lectures, books, private interviews, inner guidance, and through the example he sets in his personal life. Often he has said, "My life is my message." At the heart of his teachings is love, for he says that it is through love alone that one can find God. Sai Baba explains that in one's daily life, love should take the form of selfless service to others, especially to those in need, the poor, the diseased, and the uneducated. Sathya Sai Baba teaches that everyone, both rich and poor, should have full access to education and to medical care without regard to their financial resources. During the past 10 years, Sai Baba has opened several colleges, schools, and a small hospital, all of which are free of charge. Today, a new project of unprecedented scope in world history has begun that will make highly sophisticated medical services available to everyone free of charge. It will include an expanded general hospital, an advanced surgical hospital, medical training facilities, a rural outreach program, a housing complex, and an airport.
This hospital came up in 1985, and after that it has been a general hospital. So it has now been upgraded. We'll have disciplines like ophthalmology, the ENT, the obstetrics and gynecology, the radiology, pathology, medicine and general surgery. So this will cater to all the patients coming from various areas. They will be screened here first. Whereas the other hospital, which will be called a super specialty hospital, will have its independent OPD only for the referred patients. They will be taken up for higher investigations there. They will be admitted mainly for surgery. Then we will have a tertiary phase, or the third phase, in which we will spread our services to the rural areas. And that will complete the activities of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Medicine. A rural setup catering to the people who do not turn up to the hospital here. Conducting medical camps, the health checkup camps, the vaccination camps, and of course the education, the preventive medicine, and then the general hospital, and the final stage, of course, the super specialty hospital. We will also have a teaching program. Very soon we will be adding a teaching program for the nurses. We will have nursing school, and we will have a update ongoing program for the doctors, plus the DNB, Diploma in National Board Examination. That's what we envisage at present. So it will have a postgraduate training plus a research facility in the super specialty hospital. And on one side it will cater for the day-to-day requirements of the rural mass here. So it is very comprehensive and a complete medical setup which can be dreamt of in this country. No such setup has been founded in this country till now.
150 acres of land was purchased near Puttaparthi as the site of the advanced surgical hospital and housing complex.
I remember there was one day in which everybody seemed to think that it was very important that a name was found for this hospital. And Colonel Jaggarao and Swami both thought it was very important that the name Super Speciality should be included in the title. And us sort of foreigners said, well, Swami, Super Speciality is rather kind of overworked phrase to use. Anyway, we spent the whole morning having a sort of think tank, everybody coming up with ideas for the name for the hospital. And none of them pleased Swami. Somebody suggested, since there was an institute of education, perhaps an institute of medicine. No, one institute is enough, said Swami. And we adjourned for lunch. And we came back in the afternoon. We'd all spent lunchtime scribbling possible names for the hospital, and none of them pleased Swami. And finally he leaned back in his chair, and he says, I have the name. And he said, the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Medicine. And we all breathed a great sigh of relief and thought, wonderful, Swami, perfect name.
On November 22nd, 1990, Sri Sathya Sai Baba arrived to inaugurate the site of the new hospital. Vedic mantras were chanted and bhajans were sung as Bhagavan Baba performed the traditional coconut breaking ceremony.
Until just recently was the head of Islamic studies at the Royal College of Art in London and was considered to be the world's leading sacred architect. He has done many monasteries and meditation halls as well as other things, and teaches at the Royal College sort of the ancient wisdom, things that have been lost over the ages in terms of the divine nature and how buildings must be prepared to accept the human spirit as well as the human body. He has since been put in charge of Director of Studies of Prince Charles's new Institute, Prince Charles of England, the Prince of Wales. He's now in charge of his new institute, which will open in October. And Keith was, again, divinely inspired. There are some fascinating, and I hope that someday you'll be able to interview him, things that went on. I can only tell you that one of the things in preparation for the land itself was, which we asked Swami, should an ancient mandala, a mandala is a sort of a Buddhist symbol that represents and the land had to be prepared, according to Dr. Critchlow, with this ancient mandala being drawn out on the bare land at a certain point on the framework of the layout. Sai Baba concurred that yes, this mandala must be used, and Dr. Critchlow and I headed out for the raw land, and he said, well, you know, this, I've done this once for some Tibetans, and this a symbol attached to it, which must be an E property or flying above the property. And we thought, well, gosh, you know, how would this be possible here at Puttaparthi? When we arrived out at the hospital location, there were 5 eagles sitting on the ground in the exact spot where this ancient mandala was eventually drawn, and intonements were made when we started the project.
On November 23, 1990, hundreds of thousands of devotees gathered in the village of Puttaparthi to celebrate the 65th birthday of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Coinciding with the birthday celebration was the 5th World Seva Conference, held to plan service activities throughout the world. During his birthday discourse, Sai Baba announced the beginnings of the super specialty hospital to be built to serve mankind, especially the poor.
ఆ విధమైనటువంటిది అందించే నిమిత్తమై మేము నిన్నటి దినము ఒక పెద్ద వైద్యాలయమును నిర్మించడానికి ప్రయత్నించాము.
With these noble and lofty ideals in view, we have started one big hospital.
అనేక మంది పట్టణాల్లో దీన్ని నిర్మించాలని చెప్పి ప్రార్థించారు.
Many people prayed that this hospital should be started in some city.
పట్టణంలో అనేక రకమైనటువంటి వ్యాపార సంబంధమైనటువంటి యొక్క వైద్యాలయాలు ఉంటున్నవి.
There are so many hospitals working on
ఏ వైద్యాలయం నిర్మించినా, ఏ విద్యాలయం నిర్మించినా వ్యాపారం వ్యాపారం వ్యాపారం.
Whatever medical facilities and hospitals and schools are started anywhere, it is all a business proposition. Business, business and business.
కానీ ఉచితంగా బీదలను చూచి కరుణించేటువంటి వ్యక్తి కనిపించటం లేదు.
But it is difficult to come across a person who melts looking at the poor and provides facilities.
కనుక పల్లెలు ఉండే ఇలాంటి పవిత్రమైన యొక్క శక్తిని అభివృద్ధి పరచాలని చెప్పి సంకల్పించుకొని 100 కోట్ల వ్యయం చేత మన ప్రశాంతి నిలయంనందు ఒక విధమైన వైద్యాలయం స్థాపించడానికి ప్రయత్నించాము.
With a view to provide free medical facilities to all people and especially to the poor, in Prashanti Nilayam we have
హైయర్ లర్నింగ్ ఎటువంటిదో హైయర్ వైద్యం కూడాను అటువంటిదిగా మనం చేయాలి.
We have started 100 crore rupees worth of hospital. We have laid foundation for that.
ఈ గుండె జబ్బు వస్తే కొన్ని లక్షలు వ్యయం చేసి అమెరికాకు వెళుతున్నారు.
When people get problems of heart, they spend
బీదల గతి ఏమిటి?
go to America. What about poor people?
వారిని చూచేటువంటి వారు ఎవరు?
Who is there who can
పట్టణానికి వెళితే కలర్ నీళ్ళైనా వాళ్ళ ముఖాన్ని కొట్టరు.
If these poor people want to go to city, people do not care for
అలాంటి
them.
దురవస్థలను గుర్తించి మనము ఇక్కడ ఒక పెద్ద వైద్యాలయాన్ని నిర్మించాము.
Realizing these problems of the poor people, we want to have a big hospital here.
బైపాస్ సర్జరీ కానీ, లేక కిడ్నీ మార్చడం కానీ, లంగ్స్ ఆపరేషన్ చేయటం కానీ, బ్రెయిన్ ఆపరేషన్ చేయటం కానీ అన్నీ ఉచితంగానే.
Whether it is a problem of bypass surgery with reference to heart, kidneys, lungs,
దీని
or brain.
ప్రారంభోత్సవం కూడాను అప్పుడే నిర్ణయించుకున్నాం.
Right? In the beginning itself, we have decided to make it free.
91 నవంబర్ 22 ఇది ప్రారంభోత్సవం చేస్తాం.
22nd November 1991, we are
సాయి
going to
సంకల్పం
inaugurate.
అనేటువంటిది ఎవరు కూడా అర్థం చేసుకోలేరు.
With such a short time to plan, construct, and staff the super specialty hospital, tremendous efforts had to be made in many areas.
Or simultaneously take
ఇది ఎలా
Sort of made a pact with him and set up a foundation, which I didn't have any money to put in at the time, but put in shares in my business and said that if I ever was blessed to make some money out of this crazy business of rock and roll, that I would set it aside through this foundation and offer it to Sai Baba as a form of turning this cash into something good. I was always worried about how good the hard rock really was in terms of spirituality. Over the years, he has been kind enough to tell me that the hard rock was an oasis of light in the sea of darkness, which I certainly believe myself. So when I sold my business, which was on the American Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange, I came here to Puttaparthi and told Sai Baba that I had this stash of cash and what should we do with it? And he said, we will build a hospital. And that's how it all came to be as far as my involvement in the start of this project.
The cost of the first stage of this hospital is 105 crores, and the estimated cost of running this hospital every month will be about 1.5 crores.
At the beginning of the project, the whole industry of building hospitals worldwide and have built more hospitals told me that this job was of trying to get it done in such a short period of time because Sai Baba's open. The experts all said that's impossible. It'll take us a year. We got the medical planning done in about 6 weeks. A number of, in fact, there were 100 draftsmen who were working on the project as far as drafting out the plans, and medical planners who were going over the actual plans. And I'm sure it was a divinely inspired, or they certainly felt they were, and divinely inspired. They worked day and night, including the draftsman who drew the actual plans. His amazing knowledge of the plan and had tremendous comments about and made many changes in it.
To be as big as it has become. Sai made it very clear at the beginning that he wanted it to be concerned with the heart, lung, brain, and kidney, that those would be the 4 specialisms, and possibly later developing into cancer. But it was designed as a 100-bed facility, and the splendid building, which is the sort of the main hospital building, which, as the models that you showed demonstrate, is actually only part of this great 100-acre campus, but it's the most dominant building. That was designed as a single-story building, and they'd been on site for a couple of months when it was decided to make it into a 2-story building. So it mushroomed, most certainly, and indeed the costs of it mushroomed.
Finally, what makes a hospital is not just the equipment, not just the facilities, but the people and the personnel. And we have in place a dedicated team of doctors, nurses, and medical technicians, all vying with each other to do service at the lotus feet of our Bhagavan Baba.
Swami told us, the selection panel, that you don't go by the devotion to Swami. He must be really good in his job. And therefore we go by the biodata. And Swami always has something to say about the personality as such, which we cannot ascertain. So Swami wants a good man and a good doctor. So that's the criterion here, that's nothing else. Devotion to Swami can come in a day, it's not difficult. That's what we have seen. 70% of the people whom we appointed in the initial run, they were not the devotees of Swami. But after having got exposed to Swami, they became devoted in no time. And Swami is keen that the people who work up here, they should be permanent in this hospital. Now and then, of course, we can have a few top visiting surgeons from abroad and also from this country. But they will be operating with our team. So we'll have our own setup. We won't depend on the visiting team at all. Not the honorary capacity or the paid capacity, that is immaterial. That can be thrashed out later on. But they should be prepared to stay here permanently.
Last year, exactly this date, there was nothing but wilderness here. And no human being, I think, must have crossed this tract of land. And during the course of last 1 year, I should say from May 90 onwards, hectic activity started, about 2,500 people working round the clock.
I was out there on the hospital sites every day for 6 weeks before the opening. And of course I was as much a Jeremiah as anybody else. I could not believe that it could be finished and opened 6 weeks later. And each day it grew and developed. I mean, when I arrived there were 1,008 people on site, and during the last few days there were 3,000 people. And it was wonderful to see all the college boys and college girls. It was their vacation time, when normally they go home to see their families joining in. It was frantic. I mean, it was working 24 hours a day with floodlights, and it was terrible weather. I mean, it was sort of monsoon weather and peanuts. And there seemed, you know, here we were involved in...
The experience was the initial anxieties that we had to undergo. While the construction was going on, the equipment was being set up, we would not know whether the air conditioning will function to the levels of the requirements. We would not know whether the calibration would be possible, and electricity, water supply. We had a lot of problems to thrash out initially.
They had given us just a space. This thing was not working, that is now working, but after the inauguration we will fix everything. Okay, that's all right. So we had a place to go. So 21st night we put all our equipment there, and one big equipment arrives on 21st night.
So we came here only last week, and when I came to this place, particularly the operation room and the ICU, it was total mess, I must say. Things lying here and there, so I couldn't believe that we would be able to start in time. But there were thousands of devotees, thousands of people working round the clock, and just because Baba had set the deadline and they had full faith in Baba, the whole thing came in time.
On November 22nd, 1991, to the surprise of many, the Super Specialty Hospital was ready for opening. Devotees from around the world came to attend this auspicious event.
Because they had a single language.
Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba arrived to preside over the inauguration ceremonies. Preparations for the first surgeries were underway in the operating theaters. Sai Baba waited for the arrival of the Prime Minister of India, Sri Narasimha Rao, who is regarded as the leading political figure in all of India.
Inauguration went right on time. At 9 o'clock, Swami and Prime Minister and the whole entourage were walking towards the lab. So he was, everybody was introduced and they were walking. They went to the operating room and they went back to, and 9:10, 9:15, the first case, the atrial septal defect case, already they were coming down to get the blood, and about half hour later another case is going on.
Swami wanted 4 open heart surgery to be done on the first day, so we selected first a boy who is about 14 years old, who is from a close by place called Anantapur. He is a student. He has been suffering from a heart disease by birth. He has got a hole in the heart called the atrial septal defect, and because of that the child is having recurrent chest infection. He was not growing properly. So, and this hole is not going to close of its own.
Before the operation, I was very pain and had difficulty.
He was a laborer's boy. He hails from this district, Anantapur district. And he came to this hospital with a neighbor because his father and mother could not come. They had to be worried about their bread, so they sent him along with some neighbor. And just in the course of time, we detected that he has a atrial septal defect, which is fairly large and needs to be patched up. So we asked him whether he is prepared for surgery. He said, I have come to Swami, so I'll be taken care of by him.
Here is an announcement about the most auspicious thing. After the Prime Minister inaugurated the hospital, within 15 minutes doctors started the operations. In 3 hours, 4 major operations were performed. One of them was a very complicated operation. There was a hole in the heart. Even such an operation has been successful and everybody is healthy and happy.
Before the operation, before we take the patient to the operation theater, we give them a bit of sedation, what we call it as a pre-medication, so that they allays the apprehension, anxiety of the patient. And the patient is taken to the operating theater after fully explaining to the patient about what he should do post-operatively. This is done a day prior by the nurses and the physiotherapist and various other people. Before the operation, the patient is put to under anesthesia by various drugs, and the respiration is controlled by putting a tube through his mouth into the windpipe, whereby the respiration can be controlled, connecting to a machine, and various quantities of oxygen and other gas mixtures can be given to keep the patient under sedation without feeling. After the preparation of the skin using the antiseptic solutions, we cut open the chest by midline sternotomy incision, whereby cutting the breastbone by electric saw and wide open, and then one would put a retractor to expose the heart, which is being covered by a thin layer of transparent or semi-transparent membrane called pericardium. Once you cut open the pericardium, the heart is visible. There are, as you know, there are 4 chambers. One is the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. The right atrium gets blood from the upper half of the body by a channel called the superior vena cava, from the lower half of the body by the inferior vena cava. Both these channels carry the impure blood. This blood is pushed into the lungs, whereby they are purified, the blood is purified and brought back into the left side of the heart and pumped back into the circulation to the body to give the nutrition. Now during the operation, after giving heparin to the patient to prevent the blood from clotting, we introduce cannulas into the aorta, that is the main artery leading from the body, and also to pump the blood, arterialized or the purified blood into the body. And we take the blood from the right atrium or the superior vena cava and in inferior vena cava, the impure blood, connect it to and send it to the oxygenator, which is in the extracorporeal circulation, where the blood is purified and pumped back into the aorta, purified blood. And now it is important during this operation the heart should be still, there should not be blood, visibility should be good in order to do a secure, safe closure of this defect. So we stop the heart by stopping the circulation to the heart and by introducing a chemical substance which containing potassium chloride and various other agents to produce electromechanical arrest of the heart. Thereby, during the procedure, the heart is made totally flaccid, motionless, and blood in the heart can be removed without much of a problem. And also the heart metabolism is reduced, so there is no damaging effect on the heart myocardium. The procedure involves either direct closure or, as in this case, using a patch of Dacron cloth, closing the defect because it is a large defect, and then closing out the right side of the heart, removing the cannulas, removing the patient of the bypass and removing the cannulas and closing the chest. Patient is returned to the ICU with vital signs. Removes the tube or from the throat by evening or the next morning when he is awake, and remove the tubes which have been put in the chest cavity, and the patient is eating his normal breakfast the next morning, walking around on the next day, and ready to go home on the 7th day.
After operation, I am feeling all right.
There are breathing problem. Breathing problem.
I can move from one place to other, but I have little pain, breathing problem. Okay.
हमको बाबा बहुत अच्छा लगा.
I like Baba very much.
Later, Sai Baba came to tour the new facility and to visit the recovering patients.
Swami came here and we have taken around to all the departments. First he came here and came here near the OT, then came to the ICU. Thereafter he has seen our cath lab. Then thereafter he went to the ward. He talked to the patients who have been operated, and those people who are going to be operated. He blessed them. He materialized vibhuti also. He has given to them. All patients are progressing very well.
Very happy.
This frame, which is a still frame taken from the coronary angiography picture of Mr. Reddy, shows that most of the arteries, the left anterior descending, the diagonal and the circumflex are normal, but as can be seen, the intermediate artery, after coursing for about 4 or 5 centimeters, is totally blocked. You can't see it, and this is the reason of his angina pectoris, because enough blood cannot be supplied to this portion of the heart muscle because the vessel is almost totally blocked. We made to pass in a guide wire inside the artery, and a balloon was inflated at the site of the obstruction. The whole process took about 5 to 6 minutes after positioning the balloon, and as can be seen, after removing the balloon, the picture shows an absolutely normal coronary artery. This was the site of the block which you just saw in the other picture, and now the coronary artery is nicely filling and the blood is nicely being perfused to this portion of the heart. And this procedure is called percutaneous transluminal coronary angioplasty. The basic difference from bypass surgery being that it is all done under local anesthesia in the cardiac cath lab with the patient fully conscious. Patient is made to lie down only for 24 hours in the ward, and next day after the procedure he is up and about and he can go to his work, do whatever he likes. Morbidity of the procedure is very, very low, and it's a very, very convenient procedure for the patient.
He was pointing out that some construction work is not yet completed. He has instructed us to get it completed, and he also pointed out that certain places is unfinished, crude work. It requires further touching up, brushing up, and he also wants that this hospital should be a unique one and should shine like a mirror round the clock. not only for the inspection purpose. This thing should be engineered or should be cultivated in the mind of each and every one of us who are working here as well as coming to see this place.
Doctors who participated in the first round of operations were asked to comment on their experiences.
So roughly an operation, like a private setup, a private hospital, charges a patient an average anywhere from 75,000 to 1 lakh for a single operation. And this hospital is providing all that free.
I am Dr. Upendra Kaul from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, in the month of June. And then we decided, it was in the month of August, the birthday of Baba. On 21st, we did 2 procedures. And basically, my interest is opening up of blocked coronary arteries, a procedure called coronary angioplasty. And the first coronary angiography which I did
reached a world record of surgery on cardiac surgery, that is 25 patients done in 5 days. Only in 2 operation theatres from the opening of the theatre, but it's not possible anywhere else. And I know of many hospitals where the theatre had been fumigated for 21 days and still there were secondary infections. We had this surgical unit fumigated in 24 hours. And with God's grace and God's will, we had so far no infection at all of any sort.
A day before surgery, our anesthesia machines were 4 cardiac anesthesiologists come from that place. So we were all quite worried that what will happen. And the blame would come on us only, the anesthesiologist. So we were really very worried, but and just for 2 operation rooms. So we had 4 extra for each operation room. Second thing, the patients here are the same which we deal back home. Their protoplasm as in Delhi when we see them.
Besides the speed, one thing which touched me was the synchronization between the teams in the operation theatre and intensive care unit here. I don't think we have touched that kind of speed even at All India Institute where I have been associated with for the last 10 years. We finished on this Tuesday 3 open heart operations. We started at 9:30 and by 4:30 we were out in the unit. I think it has been possible because of excellent synchronization between the OT team and the intensive care team. The system of shifting the patient, the system of cleaning and making arrangements for the next patients, it's absolutely amazing. We haven't touched that even after 5 years of continuous work in the cardiac department at All India Institute. The equipment, the place, the facilities are far, far superior to what we have there.
What work you do, it's not important that you join bhajans and do puja. It's more important that you, through your work, whether it is working in the kitchen, cutting vegetables, sweeping, or you are doing in the hospital work, whatever you are doing, if you remember God, and that is more worship than doing bhajans alone. I think that is more appropriate for doctors and I think hospital staff. He gave that message to us, I think, particularly because we feel that we can't do bhajans and puja the ordinary way because we are busy in the hospital. Here also we are not able to attend his bhajans. More often we are busy in the hospital. So that is, I think, his message was that.
This is exactly the same thing or the same machinery we use in US, or in fact even better. The cardiac catheterization lab has got the latest equipment, better than the hospital I work in at California, much better. It is the latest machinery we have in the world for the heart, no question about it. Swami gets the best.
On November 23, 1991, hundreds of thousands of devotees gathered at the Hillview Stadium to celebrate the 66th birthday of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. During the celebration, important comments were made about the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences.
Sairam, placing my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of our Divine Master, I wish to share with this august gathering a report on Bhagavan's latest miracle, the Speciality Hospital, the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences. Exactly 1 year ago, Bhagavan announced at this very platform that a specialty hospital will be inaugurated on the 22nd of November 1991. And exactly as per his divine command, that hospital was inaugurated yesterday by the Honorable Prime Minister of India. Where else can such a miracle take place? And now Bhagavan wants to demonstrate to the benefit of mankind how medical care can be given with love instead of with money. Where medical treatment need not be bought with money, but obtained with divine grace. And that is what the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, of Higher Medical Sciences is going to give to humanity. Every single treatment, every single patient here at this hospital will be treated totally free of charge. And to service this hospital, a brand new Sathya Sai airport has been constructed. All of us have seen how like a ribbon it is running across the Divine Valley. Today we find that people are able to arrive by air directly to the airport. But the primary purpose is one which makes it possible for the medical patients and those who need emergency care to be brought directly to the hospital. It is a part of the hospital and acts as a function for that. I would like to acknowledge on this occasion those who have helped in the completion of this project in time. The first, we would like to express our thanks to the Government of India, the Ministry of Finance, the Department of Central Excise and Customs, for giving us all the necessary import permissions and giving total exemption from all customs duties for this equipment. I must also record that the customs formalities in the case of these equipment which arrived took less than 24 hours from the date of arrival. Next, we would like to express our gratitude and thanks to the government of Andhra Pradesh for giving us all assistance, and particularly total exemption from sales tax on all the purchases made by the hospital. Our appreciation is also due to Air India, which moved the entire consignment from America, from Europe, with weighing more than 25 tons, totally free of cost. We also wish to record our appreciation of the efforts and assistance given by the collector, the joint collector, and the entire district administration, which made it possible to commission this project on schedule. The Andhra Pradesh State Electricity Board also extended all help to make sure that the high voltage power station constructed was given supply well in time.
సర్వ సౌకర్యములు కూడినటువంటి యొక్క టౌన్లు యందు పట్టణములు యందు ప్రారంభించవలసినటువంటి యొక్క ఈ పెద్ద ఆసుపత్రి ఈ కుగ్రామం ముందే ప్రారంభించడానికి ఉన్నటువంటి కారణం ఏమిటో విచారించాలి.
We have to inquire what is the reason why Swami has started such a big hospital in this village, giving up a town or city where all comforts.
ధనమున్న వారు శ్రీమంతులైనటువంటి వారు ఎక్కడికైనా వెళ్ళొచ్చు, ఎన్ని లక్షలైనా ఖర్చు పెట్టుకొని వారి రోగాలను నివారణ గావించుకోవచ్చు.
Rich and wealthy people can spend money and get rid of their diseases anywhere.
కానీ దరిద్రులైనటువంటి వారు గ్రామమును వదిలి దూరం పోలేరు.
But poor people cannot give up their village and go far.
అట్టి గ్రామ ప్రజల యొక్క క్షేమమును పురస్కరించుకొనియే పల్లెయందే ఈ పెద్ద ఆసుపత్రి ప్రారంభించడం జరిగింది.
This hospital was started keeping in view the welfare of such poor villagers.
వర్కర్స్ అందరు కూడాను చాలా శ్రద్ధా భక్తితో ఈ కార్యంలో ప్రవేశించారు.
All workers have entered into the work with great sincerity of purpose.
నేను కొడైకెనాల్ నుంచి వచ్చిన తర్వాత ఈ కార్యం ప్రారంభించాం.
After I came from Kodaikanal, this project was taken.
జూలై, ఆగస్ట్, సెప్టెంబర్, అక్టోబర్ ఈ 5 నెలల లోపలే 5 సంవత్సరముల యొక్క ప్రాజెక్టు పూర్తి చేశాం.
Within 5 months, a project of 5 years was completed.
ఇది చాలా పెద్ద ప్రాజెక్ట్.
It is a very huge project.
ఈ ప్రాజెక్టు 1000 సంవత్సరములకు సరైనటువంటిది.
This project takes care of 1000 years.
ఇంకా భవిష్యత్తులో ఉత్తరోత్తరంగా కూడా ఎవ్వరు కూడా దీన్ని అభివృద్ధికి చేయనక్కర్లేదు.
Nobody need develop it further.
కనుక అట్టి హృదయాన్ని గుర్తించినటువంటి టైగైడ్
A person who has recognized this,
తన శక్తి కొద్ది కూడా ప్రయత్నం చేసి
he tried beyond his strength,
తాను తగినటువంటి సహాయం చేస్తూ వచ్చాడు.
and he has been helping this cause.
ఆయన అంతటితోనే విరమించుకోలేదు.
And he didn't
ఇంకా
stop there.
మున్ముందు మన హాస్పిటల్ని చాలా అభివృద్ధి గావించాలని చాలా ఆశపడుతున్నాడు.
He has a great aspiration to develop this hospital further.
కనుక ఇట్టి పరోపకార సంబంధమైనటువంటి యొక్క కార్యములు ఇలాంటి వ్యక్తులలో అభివృద్ధి కావాలి.
People should develop this tendency to help others.
ధనము సంపాదించవచ్చును,
We may earn money,
కానీ సంపాదించినటువంటి ధనము సద్వినియోగం చేసినప్పుడే ఆ ధనము కూడా గౌరవం ఉంటుంటుంది. కానీ
only when it is utilized properly, the wealth is useful.
సంపాదించినటువంటి ధనాన్నంతా కూడా ఏ విదేశాల్లో పెట్టి కట్టగనబడి కన్ను మూసుకొని వెళుతున్నాడు.
But today's man earns money, keeps
ఆ
it in
ధనమును
the country.
సద్వినియోగం చేయాలి.
Utilize the money well.
ఆ యొక్క సద్వినియోగం చేసేటువంటి బుద్ధులు అందరికీ పుట్టవు.
But all people do not have such tendency.
ఏ కోటికో నూటికో ఒకరికి పుడుతుంటాయి.
Among 100 people or a crore people, one person will get that
మనం
tendency.
తీసుకున్న గాలిని తిరిగి వదిలినప్పుడే మనకు ఆరోగ్యం చక్కగా ఉంటుంది.
Only when we give out what we receive, then our health is all right.
భుజించిన ఆహారం మరొక వైపును విసర్జించకుండా పోయినప్పుడే ఆరోగ్యం చెడిపోతుంది.
If the food that is taken in is not sent,
అదే విధంగానే సంపాదించిన ధనాన్ని కూడా సద్వినియోగం చేసినప్పుడే అది ఆరోగ్యంగా ఉంటుంది.
similarly, when wealth earned is utilized properly, it will be healthy.
కనుక అలాంటి త్యాగభావం చేత టైగ్రేడు మన యొక్క ఆసుపత్రికి చాలా సహాయం చేశాడు.
With such a sense of sacrifice, he has helped this hospital to a very great extent.
అతనికి స్వామి పైన ఉన్నటువంటి భక్తి విశ్వాసములే దీనికి మూల కారణం.
And the main cause for this is his devotion to Swami.
కనుక ఈ భక్తి విశ్వాసములు ఈ పరోపకార సంబంధమైన కార్యములో ప్రవేశపెట్టడము చాలా ఉత్తమమైన మార్గం.
Devotion, faith to Swami should be transformed into helping others.
న్యూయార్క్ లో ఉండినటువంటి ఈ టైగ్రేడు ఈ కుగ్రామమైనటువంటి పుట్టపర్తికి వచ్చి ఈ విధమైనటువంటి దానం చేయటం అనేటువంటిది అది ఎక్కడ చేసినప్పటికీ ఒక్కటే, కానీ అతని భావము ఈ విధంగా ఆకర్షించింది.
Tigrate from New York has come to Puttaparthi to give in charity and help this cause.
కనుక అతన్ని వర్ణించడం కాదు, కానీ అతని యొక్క త్యాగాన్ని ఆనందించటమే.
Swami is telling us how to enjoy his sense of sacrifice and
ఇంతటితో
not praising
కాక
him.
మున్ముందు కూడాను ఇలాంటి కార్యం లోపల మా టైగ్రేడు ఇంకా కూడాను త్యాగాన్ని అభివృద్ధి గావించుకోవాలని నేను ఆశీర్వదిస్తున్నాను.
Swami blesses him that he develops more and more sense of sacrifice.
ప్రేమ పిచ్చని ఈ పాత్రతో పెడుతున్నాను.
This vessel, silver vessel, is a flower of love.
ఈ ప్లాన్ను చాలా శ్రమలకు వచ్చి ఎన్నో నెలలంతా కూడా రాత్రింపగలు కష్టపడి ఈ ప్లాన్ను చాలా బాగా వేశాడు. అతను బ్రిటిష్ వాడు.
This building plan and architecture was done by a British
రాణి వారి యొక్క బకింగ్హామ్ ప్యాలెస్ అనేది మన ప్యాలెస్ వేశాడు.
The model of this hospital is that of Buckingham Palace.
అన్ని సౌకర్యములతో కూడా నిర్మించాడు.
He has provided all the comfort and facilities.
నా ప్రేమ బిచ్చ అనేటువంటిది పాత్రతో అందిస్తున్నాను.
And Swami gives these blessings in the form of the silver vessel.
మూడవది లాస్ అండ్ ట్యూబ్రోస్ లోపల మేనేజింగ్ చైర్మన్ రామకృష్ణ అని అతను ఎక్కడైనా పని పెడితే ఎప్పుడో ఒక తూరి మాత్రం వెళ్ళి చూసేటువంటి వాడు. కానీ మన ప్రశాంతి నియములకు వారంలోకి 2 పర్యాలు వాడకు 3 పర్యాలు కూడా వచ్చి ఈ పనిని ప్రత్యేకంగా చూసుకుంటూ అతి శ్రద్ధ చేత ఎక్కడెక్కడ జరిగేటువంటి పనులన్నీ కూడా ఆపించి ఆ వర్కర్స్ అందరినీ ఇక్కడ పంపించి ఎంతో భక్తి శ్రద్ధతో దీనిని అభివృద్ధి గావించాడు. అతి స్వల్పకాలం లోపలనే పూర్తి చేయించాడు.
Mr. Ramakrishna, the chairman of the Lawson and Toubro Construction Company, if he undertakes a project anywhere,
నిజముగా వారి యొక్క శ్రద్ధా భక్తులే దీనిపైన ప్రసరించకుండా ఉండిన మన భవనము ఇంత త్వరలో నిర్మించడానికి వీలు కాదు.
if they didn't have this great sincerity of purpose,
హృదయపూర్వకంగా తన యొక్క పనిగా తాను భావించినటువంటి వాడు.
he was thinking heartily that it was his own work.
అతనికి కూడాను నా ప్రేమ భిక్షను ఈ స్వరూపంలో అందిస్తున్నాను.
Swami showers his divine grace in this form. The fourth person,
ప్రధానమైన వ్యక్తి,
the most important person.
ఇంత ఆసుపత్రి కట్టి కూడాను ఆ వ్యక్తియే లేకుండినా ఇది ఎంత నిరుపయోగమే.
If we had built this building and if this person didn't exist, the hospital building will be a waste.
భక్తి శ్రద్ధలు ఎంతంటే పూర్ణ త్యాగంతో దీనిని అనుభవిస్తూ వచ్చాడు.
He has complete sense of sacrifice for this hospital.
ఒక్క దినమునకు 10 ఆపరేషన్లు అవలీలగా చేసేటువంటి వాడు.
He can perform 10 operations in a day very easily.
ఆయన ఢిల్లీలో పెద్ద సంస్థ లోపల పాల్గొనేటువంటి వాడు, పని చేసేవాడు.
He is working in a great institution.
కానీ స్వామి కార్యం అనేటువంటి విషయం లోపల ఎంతనో త్యాగం చేసి
for Swami's cause he has sacrificed much.
మన హాస్పిటల్కి వచ్చి
he came to our hospital.
ఈ ఆపరేషన్ అంతా చేస్తూ వచ్చాడు.
He is performing the operations here.
అతనికి ఆపరేషన్ అంటే నీళ్లు త్రాగినట్టు.
Performing operations is like drinking water for him.
అంతటి శక్తివంతుడు,
such a powerful and skillful
అంతటి భయభక్తులతో కూడినటువంటి వాడు,
with great devotion and faith,
శ్రద్ధతో చేరినటువంటి వాడు,
with great sincerity and purpose.
డాక్టర్ వేణుగోపాల్.
It is Dr. Venugopal.
వారిని ఎంతో ఆప్యాయంగా చూసుకుంటూ, వారి బంధువులు ఎవరు లేనంత వరకు కూడాను తానే ఇదిగా ప్రేమతో చూసుకుంటూ అన్ని విధాల కూడా దీన్ని ఫలవంతం గావించాడు.
With great love and affection, Dr. Venugopal has performed these operations.
రేపటి నుంచి దినము 10 ఆపరేషన్లు జరుగుతుంటాయి.
Tomorrow onwards there will be 10 operations every day.
ప్రపంచమంతా కూడా ఇంకా మున్ముందు ప్రశాంత నిలయంలో చేరవలసి వస్తుంది.
And in future the whole world has to come to Prashanti Nilayam.
మానసిక రోగానికి, దేహ రోగానికి ఈ రెండింటికి ప్రశాంతి నిలయం ప్రధానమైన మందిరం.
Both for physical.
కనుక అతనికి కూడాను అనేక విధములుగా ఇంకా శక్తి సామర్థ్యం కూడా అభివృద్ధి గావించి తాను అనేక ప్రజలకంతా సేవ చేయాలని ఆశిస్తూ నా యొక్క ప్రేమ భిక్షను ఈ విధంగా అందిస్తున్నాను.
Swami blesses him to prosper in his line further and gives him this sign of grace.
Well, it's very interesting. One was Dr. Venugopal, who's a distinguished surgeon. In fact, 2,300 some odd men working 3 shifts around the clock built that institute. Not one person was hurt during that period of time through Sathya Sai Baba's grace. And I know that Mr. Ramakrishna, if he was here at this moment, would certainly feel that he had received that on behalf of all of those men and women who worked to build that hospital.
Through this medium would appeal to all those people who have the love of mankind at heart, and our doctors, our nurses, our technicians connected with medicine, come and join us and join this institute and create similar institutions elsewhere, and let us all join the society of love, love to humanity. That is the creed, if at all there is a creed of Swami Sathya Sai Baba.